Trudy sitting in for Elias for the rest of the week. We saw a new poll this morning from La Presse showing that the Parti Québécois is leading by 6 points over the Quebec Liberal Party, the Liberal Party falling back after approaching quite closely to the PQ last month. However, the CAQ also rebounding under the leadership of Christine Frechette. Who Quebecers will go for? Well, that's not clear. It looks like it may actually be a three-way race. The Quebec Chamber of Commerce is looking ahead to the election in the fall, and it has a shopping list. So it's putting its ideas out there. I'm assuming it's going to be looking for some commitments from the parties in question. Here to tell us more is the president of the Quebec Federation of Chambers of Commerce, Véronique Proulx. Madame Proulx, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So this is an exercise that the chambers generally go through ahead of an election. You take a look at what would be positive change for the business community, and you put together your shopping list. What is at the top of this list this time?
Well, we have 7 priorities for the next government that will be elected next fall. And these priorities come from the consultations that we've done across the Quebec, across the different regions. So we consulted all 17 regions, 80 chambers of commerce, and over 140 companies, employers in all sectors of activities. And there are 7 main things that really come up that are issues that the next government need to focus on. And yesterday we had the opportunity with 40 chambers of commerce to do a press conference to really put some light on these priorities. And what we aim to do is bring regional economic development in the center of the electoral campaign. So I'll go quickly with the first priorities. The first one, and companies are telling us it's more and more difficult to do business in Quebec. There's a lot of pressure from, of course, the tariff war with the U.S., with all the geopolitical situation. Prices are going up. We don't have access to the labor we need. So a lot of companies are considering either shutting down, slowing down, or moving abroad. And this is something that we've been being told every day. So the first priority related to this is to reduce the fiscal and reg burden for companies. So we're talking about more specifically about reducing income tax on companies and payroll taxes for SMEs.
And by how much? How big a cut are you talking about?
So for the income tax, we're talking about reducing it by 1.5%. So the idea here is to say, we have had a government over the past 8 years that has been very interventionist, a lot of programs, specific measures for different companies. And we're saying, for the next government, we need less programs, less measures, but reduce the tax burden for companies, reduce income tax so that companies can choose. You'll give them more air, more breathing space, and you let them choose where they need to invest. Let them make that decision, and they will do the job. And this is something companies have been telling us all over Quebec.
Now, that is interesting because a lot of critics of government spending in the business sector, it's all about, you're just offering corporate welfare, through all these programs, subsidy programs and so on. But what your members are saying is, listen, you can reduce those if you let us keep more of our money and decide where to put it.
Exactly. So will a company choose to invest in development of skills and labor? Will it choose to invest in automation or to invest in trade and in export development or diversification? It's going to be up to them, but give them that space, give them that liberty so they can choose what to do with it. And at the same time, the government is telling us that it needs to increase its productivity. They're affected by labor shortages. So the more programs you have, the more people you need at the government to be able to manage these. So it's a win-win for both businesses and for government as well.
I noticed that one of your top recommendations touches on regulatory burden, and we hear that all the time from businesses, is that there's too much paperwork, they're answering to too many people, the bureaucratic load is crushing, and it's hurting their ability to pivot and respond to economic conditions. Is that what you're hearing from your members?
Absolutely. And we've even had the Quebec government admit that regulatory burden cost $1 billion to Quebec companies last year. So it's true for large companies, but it's also true for SMEs. And I was just meeting now with a company who was referring to that. And they were saying that there are 3 main things that come up when we talk about reg and administrative burden: the OQLF, And of course, everybody is OQLF, which regulates French within companies. So everybody does agree that we need to increase the level of French. We want to encourage our people to speak French in the workplace. But at the same time, the legislation that has been put in place has a cost, and it's not necessarily working for companies or for the employees as well. Second thing is CNESST. So health and safety issues, a lot of regulatory issues there as well, and Bill 25. So, every time a new government puts in place a new law, a new bill, there's always a good reason to see it. But what we're asking government to do in the future is to have a 360 view around that initiative and see, what else is already in place and how much more are we putting on the shoulders of the SMEs in Quebec.
Now, you touched on the language issue, which is definitely in its many aspects going to be an election concern with a lot of discussion. You also have a recommendation that touches on immigration, which I think is also going to be one of those hot button issues where people get very emotional and dug in. What are you recommending there?
So this is interesting on immigration because labor shortages is still today the number one issue for small and medium companies in the different regions of Quebec. I was in Abitibi-Témiscamingue last week. I met with mining companies, with different companies in the region. The industry is booming. I mean, this is a sector that is growing. It's pulling Quebec economy. It's bringing it's sustaining economic development in the region for the Quebec economy as well. And our governments are not letting these companies keep their foreign temporary workers. So there's a huge misunderstanding. If you go to Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, I was speaking with people in Chaudière-Appalaches as well. They need these workers. So we need to increase immigration levels and maintain the foreign temporary workers that are active right now in the different regions of Quebec. And it's going to be a difficult situation because over the past years, we've been associating immigration with all sorts of problems across Quebec. And when we speak to business owners, when we speak to employees in these companies, they're all telling us we need these workers if we want to keep our companies open and if we want to keep our regions open for business.
Well, you might have a tough row there to hoe, but I hope the government has the government. I hope that the parties who aspire to be government have their ears on that score, because that's not the first time we're hearing on that issue as well. Véronique Proulx, I want to thank you very much for the briefing.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Véronique Proulx is president of the Fédération of Chambers of Commerce of Quebec.
Close your eyes, and you can hear the entire world come alive. 2026 FIFA World Cup is on, and you can stream it all live on TSN Radio. From the opening kickoff to the final celebration, every match, every moment. Listen to FIFA World Cup on TSN Radio.
Gives Canada the lift off.
Available on iHeartRadio.